The title of this video is Addiction to Data. It is one of the three barriers in this unit. And this really, addiction to data is what Friedman would understand as the fallacy of expertise. For Edwin Friedman, one of the greatest problems with modern leadership and really relationships, relational systems across the board is the over dependence or the over reliance upon data. Leaders who rely too heavily upon data always end up feeling inadequate, unable to catch up, unable to be considered up to date. When leaders go in this direction, or they buy into this construction of reality, really what happens is it confuses information with expertise, confuses know-how with wisdom, and really change with almost anything new, and complexity with profundity, he says. Um, Leaders can overcome this, people can overcome this as they appreciate that not all data is useful and really begin to develop the criteria for determining what is. If you think about it, our focus on information, the sheer volume of information, providing information, having access to all information, or believing that access to more information or more data will solve our problems, is a product of social regression. The ability of leaders to overcome the lure of data largely depends on their capacity to resist the anxiety in their systems, to resist anxiety in society. Edwin Friedman regards our obsession with data as a sort of substance abuse, involving all of the usual problems that come with addiction, like, for example, self doubt, denial, relapse, withdrawal, temptation. All forms of addiction are related to the key themes in his book, and really the key themes of this course: anxiety, lack of nerve, and a poorly differentiated self prevents people from stepping into relationships in healthy ways. And so, leaders, our society, are really overwhelmed and seduced by data and feel guilt that they have not used it enough. This actually leads to two myths. There are two facets to this belief that data will solve our problems. The first is that if we just knew more, we would be able to fix anything. The second is that if we fail, it's because we didn't use the right technique. So let me say that again. If we just know more, if we just knew more, if we just had the right information, the right data, if we just read it the right way, then we can fix anything. And the second is that if we fail, well, it's because we didn't utilize the right technique, which was based on correct information or more data. Now, central to Edwin Friedman's case against data driven leadership is the fact that emotional processes are crucial and inextricable from our thinking. And he provides some different examples that I'm gonna provide one brief example in this video, and then I'm gonna use a parenting example. But I want to say something about emotional processes. Just briefly, emotional processes, and by the way, you can find some discussion on this on page 6 in our book Uproar. Um, Emotional processes are any behavior, that is all behavior really, that is governed by instinct. All behavior that is governed by instinct. That is, it is automatic, it is mindless. And Stinky says this: in emotional processes, we relate to one another impulsively. These automatic, biologically programmed, and innate forces that control eating, they control reproducing, self preserving, etc. And they're often considered lower brain functioning. Um, so when we think of emotional processes, what I'm referring to are those processes that are automatic, that happen without thinking. And that in part is the problem. So we begin this section, addiction to data. Uh, this is one of the three barriers to having effective relationships, to making effective decisions, to being an effective leader in any system, whether that system is family, higher education, nonprofit, for profit, government, it doesn't matter. We tend to be too addicted, too dependent on data. Good grief. Think about Twitter. Think about Wikipedia. Think about Facebook. Think about what that does. I've asked my students before, when you open up your phone, where does your thumb go to? For many of them, it goes to Instagram or it goes to Twitter. And what they've done is their addiction to the data that they have access to has now become programmed in them, produced habits in them that they're that have become automatic. They've created a groove, if you will, in their soul that has become automatic. They don't even think, and this is an indication that something is wrong. But in our families, when we rely on data as a means to solve problems, we begin to run into more problems. One of the examples that we might think about is medicine. Not only does focus upon information and data, like in medical training, data also proliferates through intake forms, questions on insurance forms, etc. You ever thought about why they ask all? Do they actually need all of those questions answered? Do they really use all of that data? Or the belief that if we just had a little bit more information, the data obsession focuses on pathology. Think about that. Our obsession on data focuses on pathology and invites people to anxiety. So, just a quick example of that. We could go with many more. Um, what I do want to do, though, is my next video is I'm going to talk about parenting and how our obsession with data has created issues with parenting.